I'm good, man. I'm good. Yeah, relaxing, taking the afternoon off.
I was it's funny, funny thing is because it wasn't specified in the email which Scott I'd be talking to. And
Confused
on
a
send
couple.
yeah, and it doesn't bother me. Like I've chatted to you before online on Instagram and that, but I was trying to work out, I was like, man, it's like midnight in San Diego. But
Yeah.
so where are you? Sydney
Yeah, a
and
few people have
Melbourne?
been like, wait, yeah, I'm Sydney. I'm Sydney
Sydney.
based, always have been. But yeah, a few people have been like, isn't it like middle of the night for you? I'm like, no, not at all.
Nope. That's why the sun's out there.
Yeah, exactly. It's actually perfect for me. It's a little afternoon.
Yeah, no, it's a good time of day for it. So
Yeah,
man,
yeah. But yeah.
so you've been a busy guy anyway. Like I've been keeping up with you on Instagram and everything myself, and dude, I swear you don't stop.
It's been a busy couple of years, that's for sure. Yeah, I mean, I love it. I wanted to do this my whole life, and I got pretty lucky. I've had a few bands come and go, and yeah, I've been way more lucky than most people. So I'm stoked, and I'll only stop when it stops ringing.
But I've noticed, like, because you are you still doing the Phoenix TX then?
I mean, that band is unfortunately we're gonna pack that one up now. We lost Adam to cancer a
That's
few months
right.
ago,
Oh
and
man,
there's
I'm so
still
sorry. I forgot all about that.
no. It's I mean, it's still fresh for everybody, and like we kind of
Yeah.
pretty quickly decided that without Adam, it didn't feel like right to continue, I guess. So that was, it was a good little outing we had. We did the when we were young, and that was, the last shows he was able to play then as well. So we had
Oh,
a good little last run.
I mean, that's a pretty big show for his last run though. Like that looked mental, especially from an Australian point of view.
Huge. Well, exactly. And like, we don't really have anything like that here anymore in that kind of genre at all, really.
No.
So like, it's funny though, because that's what Americans used to see happening in Australia when like Unwritten Law was coming out here in the mid 90s. Like, they didn't have shows like that back then. And now we've kind of swapped over,
Switched. Yeah, because we used to get the Warp Tour here and all
all
that
the
kind of stuff,
livids
which is
and big day
livid.
outs and like yeah,
Oh
all that
man,
like
livid.
the lineups are ridiculous. Like even the other night, I was looking at some of the old lineups for another interview, and like it's just every band on there. You're just like, how would you ever see them all in one go? And it's
Yeah.
like ridiculous.
It's unfortunate. Like, I mean, I guess in this what's the word? Like the financial climate and everything. We're never gonna
Yeah,
see those festivals here again. But like, don't get me wrong, Good Things is amazing. Not Fest, great, but
yeah, they're filling some
no,
holes, but
yeah, no one can
those
deny that
days.
those days are unfortunately
I mean,
gone.
all it was back then was just a field, like there was hardly even
Mm,
fences back then. And
I
now
know.
it's such an insurance and police and all these things you got to bring in that just drives tickets ridiculously through the roof. And, there's nothing left at the end to pay bands to do this stuff anymore.
Yeah, it's must be. So I can't even imagine what goes into it. Like, it's
There's a
crazy, but
lot of
it's
risk these days.
yeah, and it's kind of one of those things too, where at the moment every band, like now that COVID's all kind of you know done,
It's
but
over,
everyone's
over.
stuck over. But bands are slowly starting to get back over here a lot more, especially this year. Like you as an Aussie would see how many bands are
So
getting
many, like
here.
almost too many, some would argue, but like everyone's dying to tour and all these new bands have come out as well as old bands. And so there's
Mm.
just there's so much to go on. And yeah, the
So,
fact that we got thrown on this Hotter Than Hell is like perfect for us. It's with a lot of bands that these guys haven't seen for a long time or have never played with, but
yeah,
it's still playing some of these bigger shows that are harder to put together sometimes these days.
yeah. It's like for a lack of a better word, like you guys are doing a somewhat strange little tour over here because you got Hotter Than Hell, two shows. You're doing the
Yeah.
Schooner or later in Sydney, the cruise
Yeah, that should
there.
be fun.
And then I think you've got three of your own shows on the side. Like,
Yeah, it's quick. It's different to what we usually do. That's for
mm,
sure.
yeah,
We've
it like compared
done
to
a
last
month
year.
every time. Yeah, we're here for a month almost religiously. And now
Yeah,
it's 10 days and we're fitting, I think it's 7 shows in 10 days.
jeez, man,
So it's like, it's quite a lot.
that is like. So, what's the plan? I don't, okay. I spoke to you on Instagram recently. I was asking you about I was asking you what's going on with the set list for the side shows for a
Right.
term, and you weren't sure what was going on. So do we know now? What are these other shows getting?
I mean, we've kind of quietly talked about it. There's definitely a couple that are going to get the album.
Hmm.
We're doing it at the festivals because that was part of the deal. Like a lot of the bands are doing albums front to
Yeah, I
back, so
saw
we're
that.
doing
Yeah.
it there. But then when it came to the other ones, we didn't know, and so the crews actually requested specifically Black Album and Elva, and so we're kind of like, okay, like that's definitely a period that people just still love, hands down.
Hmm.
Like we
Oh,
we try
yeah.
and fit something from everywhere in the band, but we know there's periods that some of those songs we haven't played since their anniversaries, whenever that was, years ago. And like that
Yeah.
was the first time some of them ever got played. So it's kind of like we like to play some of those ones that haven't been done over 20. I've realized this will be 21st Australian tour for Unwritten Law. So it's like trying to pick a
21st.
set list that still pleases people is, it's a
Yeah.
big job.
I think the good thing with Unwritten Law fans as well is like we do have quite a I don't know how to word it properly, just like a strong feeling towards every album, every song. I don't think anyone could complain no matter what the outcome was. Like you could play
Right.
literally a greatest hit set list with, you know, the top songs, everyone would still be
Right.
happy.
Just,
You
yeah.
could play
And
deep
like,
cuts only, we'd be happy.
well, and I've already kind of been like tempting, so I'm like, especially some of like the Blackout Milva ones, we don't do that unless we're doing a playthrough, which is pretty rare. Like we did it on 20th anniversary for Black Album, but we
Hmm.
haven't played half that album since then. So I definitely like get excited about pulling some of those ones out of the bag again. And like a lot of the fans love those ones too. Like you said, like fans and myself being a fan
Hmm.
growing up, like they're albums for me. Like they're whole chunks. There's no particular part that I'm like that song or this song. I'm like it's a whole story in each album.
I think that's like a big thing that kind of made Unwritten Law so distinctive and made such a cult following is that, they like every album is distinctively Unwritten Law, but it changes to a certain degree.
Yeah,
Especially you look at between Black Album and Elva, massive.
huge difference.
Elva
Huge
to Here's to the
difference.
Morning, massive, but it's still Unwritten Law. You know what I mean? Like
Right. Yeah,
yeah,
it's funny you say that because when we were writing the last one, and it had been like 10 years,
yeah,
it's kind of a lot of pressure. And we realized that, like if you put Wade and Scott in a room, like that is such a big part of the essence. And it's like almost anything you write will sound a little bit like Unwritten Laws. Those guys have got their magic on it. But there's still that sound and like the story throughout each album. It's like it means a little more. And that I was always the same growing up. It's just you have the whole piece, no matter how long it is, whether it's 25-minute, 30-minute album or they put out like 45 to an hour or some of them. It's like I love every minute.
yeah. It's hard not to like, and that the album, The Hum, that was I don't. It felt so true to Unwritten Law. It felt like sounds bad saying this, but it felt like Unwritten Law was back.
Yeah,
Like it
right. Okay.
really, truly
Thank you.
felt like I don't know how else to say it. Like not to put anything against anything in the past. It's just that, especially between that album and that tour, there was just something about the vibe of that tour that
Mm.
really I felt it. I
It means a lot. And I think, especially for us, this particular lineup we've had, I think it's 10 years this year as this particular group of guys. And that was kind of, we were scared to put something out because we're like, well, what if people don't like it? What if it doesn't even get registered? And it's like, we don't want that to be the last album this band ever puts out that nobody cares about. But we wanted to put everything into it and we did, and people were so receptive, and we hear that sometimes, and it means the world because that's all we cared about was just that somebody out there was like, that was another piece of the story that I loved and we'll hold on to for a little while.
it did. It truly felt like every best part of Unwritten Law was kind of shoved into that album. You know, like it was a pure Unwritten Law album, and like I've heard Scott talk about it in interviews, and he spoke so highly of it. And then when it came out, it was like, yep, I can see why this was hitting home for him.
Well, yeah, and I think for a little while, I mean, this band is such a life or death, especially for those guys, Wade and Scott. Like, this is their life. This is all they've done. This is all they'll ever do.
Yeah.
And, I think they probably had more reservations than all of us. Like, we had
Mm.
slightly less on the line, but they to hear those guys so stoked after them sort of thinking they probably never might not do an Everyone again. It's like when we finished it and everyone was just like happy and we thought we'd done something, and those guys were like, they never thought they might get that again. So it was really cool to be there, especially during COVID. We were finishing that thing off. It was a hectic time, so it was really emotional too, and we got to like go through quite a lot together while finishing up that album.
Yeah, I can imagine, man. Like that would have been crazy. What was the reception like touring all those new songs?
It was great. I mean, we had such a big hand in getting the visuals and the looks and the art, and it was all family based too. Like this band's such a family oriented band. If
Mm.
anyone that we know does something, Scott's brother is doing all the videography, and his wife does all the makeup and all the it's like such a
Jeez.
big thing. So yeah, it's always a good time, and it's always family and parents and kids, and it's lovely.
Yeah, I mean, not to mention that they brought Kaylin over for the tour, which was awesome. Like
Yeah,
it
and that
was,
was another family moment.
yeah, it was like it was so crazy. Like, especially as an Australian, you never thought you'd see the day that it'd be Unwritten Law and Kaylin,
Opening up, and
opening
like
up.
she's just so cool, and she's got her like whole different vibe going, like electronic, and she's just badass, and it was just a
Yeah.
really fun time to have. And she'd never been other than maybe a quick trip modeling years ago, so it was like
Hmm.
father and daughter on vacation almost. So it was really beautiful.
Yeah, man. Because I was shooting the whole show, down in the photo pit, and I remember I was sitting there, kind of just chilling in the photo pit, watching Kaylin. I just remember Scott coming and sitting down, sitting next to me, and he just looked so proud. It was
Yeah, every
awesome.
night it was down there.
He was so happy, and you could tell the difference. Like he was, and then seeing her get up on stage was
Sing to Kaylin and do the whole thing. And we actually
again.
had one of Scott's other sons down there for about half the trip, so it was even
Oh,
more
really?
family.
Oh
Yeah, and
man.
like whenever we're in San Diego, the boys coming out and sing like his youngest son sings "Seeing Red." That's like a tradition down there. Like
Oh, that's
it's really
cool.
cool.
So his son lives in the States though?
Yeah, San Diego. They're all based across California, but yeah, it's and now Johnny has a daughter as well. She comes out, and everyone's got their
Yeah.
kids at the shows. It's really beautiful.
That's speaking of, how did you specifically get involved with Unwritten Law? Because I don't know the
Uh,
stories of this.
there's a long-winded version, but I guess the quickish is it's actually. Do you remember there was a festival called Hits and Pits about 10 years ago?
Very
Which
vaguely.
was yeah, ran for a couple of years and then it kind of took a shit and everybody got lost a bunch of money and the guy ran off and
Oh shit.
it was hell. It was hell, but that was my first time ever with Unwritten Law and I kind of got thrust into them because on that festival there was like dozens of bands and I think I was supposed to look after No Fun at All and that was like, that was what I did a couple times a year. I looked after punk bands and did whatever. And Unwritten Law got added, and nobody on the festival wanted to look after him because they've just heard horror stories like burning mattresses out windows and crazy noise complaints and all sorts of things.
Yeah.
And so I said no initially. I was like, I love that band. I don't want to meet them and hate them. Like,
Yeah. Don't meet your
but I was like,
heroes.
right, right, exactly. And so I was like, nah. And then a week out, they were just like, nobody else wants it. You're doing it. I was like, all right, fine. It'll be a good
Jesus.
time. It'll be a fun 2 weeks, whatever. And I mean, I didn't say anything for like a week. And then about a week into the tour, like we're all kind of becoming friends. I'm getting to know him a bit. And I got really drunk with him one night and I finally kind of just blurted out. I was like, well, you're playing this song wrong. You're doing that wrong. Spitting my mouth off.
Yeah.
Definitely shouldn't have been doing it. And they were kind of like, prove it. And they threw a guitar in my hands and I played the intro to one of their songs. And they were like, okay. And so I started playing one song a night and it was that song. And then that evolved and evolved. And because we went through kind of hell on that tour and we all ended up with no money, I guess they felt bad. And so they started bringing me over to the States to tour. And then every time they were here, which was every year. And so we were just doing the thing. And then we came to write the album, and I'd been around for about 5 years in the background. I played every member of the band at some point over those years when there was emergencies or injuries or whatever. And then yeah, I got the call like, "Hey, do you want to just be in the band at this point?" I was like, "I would absolutely love that."
A dream come true for a little Aussie kid who grew up with the band as well.
Yeah, like I mean, I used to sit outside their over 18 shows, not able to get in, just listening, like that was me.
That's yeah, I growing up with him and growing up like because also a guitarist and I can't even imagine what it must be like to be kind of thrust into that environment all of a sudden and just not know what to do with yourself.
It's pretty wild, man. Yeah, it's pinch me's at every moment
Oh,
still these days, but
yeah.
yeah, it's crazy. It's a crazy time. And just finally meeting him and having this wild 10 years together where it's kids have been born and grown up and are now entering high schools and things, and we've all been together this whole time. It's like, yeah, I
You're
couldn't
part of the
imagine
family
anything
now.
like it. Yeah, I mean, I spend some more time than I do here most of the time. And even Scott's parents put me up for like half the year if I ask.
Jeez, that's so awesome, man. So do you manage bands or
I mean, just these guys really,
okay,
just
because
tour
I've
managing,
noticed
and
that
that
you were I was gonna say
I
I
double
noticed
up.
like on you were doing Stand Atlantic, what like you were at a bunch of shows. What was with that?
Yeah, I just kind of fill in for people, I guess. So sometimes with Stand Atlantic particularly, I've been like, they'll have a weekend run because they have a tour manager and he lives in England. And so if they've got like
Okay.
a 3 day weekend at Good Things, like it's a lot
Yeah.
easier for me to tag along. Or the other week they were just needed some crew, to help. They were playing their biggest shows they've ever done.
I
And so
saw
they
that,
give me a
man. It looked
call to be just a
nuts.
hand on. And yeah, they were ridiculous. And like, it was really cool. I've known those guys forever, guys and girls. And, like, that's a big chance to take in Australia playing some of those rooms, for a band. You could go either way. And like to see them just succeed and have their album do so well, it was like such a cool moment to be there for.
It's really cool at the moment, kind of seeing there's a lot of bands like Stand Atlantic and that they're taking these chances with their tours, like on a much bigger platform, I should say, is I saw Parkway's new tour the other day. And
Yeah, no fire.
to see an Australian band from on Goldie, they're only an hour and a
Well,
half
yeah,
south. Like it's like
exactly. It's
bands
like
like
wouldn't have
that.
happened when we're growing up.
Oh no. So it's really cool to see like the Aussie scene really starting to go, you know what? Screw it. Let's
Well,
put the
yeah,
money in.
it's sick. And like Aussie bands are finally doing better overseas, which is
Yep.
usually the biggest hurdle. Like you either get one or the other. You're either big overseas and nobody cares down here,
Yeah.
or you're massive here and nobody gives a crap.
Yeah. It also seems like don't like correct me if I'm wrong, that it's kind of like
Hmm.
you're big in Europe or you're big in the States.
It's tricky to do all of the above. That's like
Mm,
if you can get three, like that is your chance at a lifestyle, like career choice. Without them, you
yeah.
still probably got a job when you get home. Like you need those
Yeah.
territories to fill out the year enough. Otherwise, you're still working. Like me, I work at a record shop whenever I'm home. And like
Oh, that's
thank
awesome.
God for them.
So
Yeah,
I can see you got a bunch of your records just behind you as well.
yeah, I got just a couple, just a few.
It's a nice little collection. I can see the
Yeah,
Black Album up there, speaking of.
actually, yeah, that's actually.
Oh, that's a
I'll grab
poster,
that.
is
Hold
it?
on, because this is an original promo for when
Oh,
it
dude.
dropped, and it's signed by all the original guys too.
Oh, man, from a distance, I
And
thought it
that's
was a
when,
vinyl.
yeah, no, I got that too. But
Of
yeah, it's
course.
original from when that came out in '96, I guess it was, or '98, I forget.
That's freaking awesome, man.
But yeah, man, I've actually got a whole ton of old unwritten law stuff like that I've been collecting over the years. One day I might do something with it.
So, uh, jumping ahead. So, you've toured the
Yes,
Hum. You're now doing this tour. Now, I've looked online. There's nothing else coming up after this. Is there a rest or is there plans?
there's plans. Australia will take us through most of the year, but there's a few shows. We try and do like a big Christmas hometown show in December. So
Yeah.
that'll be, around Christmas time. I believe there's Arizona, we're doing Vegas, Yeah, I want to say Santa Ana, which is California. So there's a bunch where they're dripped out a little. So we've only got a couple every month till the end of the year,
Okay.
and then my suggestion was we start writing again after that.
I can't see why you shouldn't.
That was what I was thinking. We've all got a couple each at this point. The album's been out for about a year, I think more
Yeah,
now.
2 years now.
So 2 years. Holy shit! Yeah, two
Yeah,
years.
time flies, man.
Um, so I kind of suggested spending a little time together, maybe the beginning of next year, and seeing what we can get. Maybe not another whole album because it seems to take about 10 years, but something.
I don't think anyone would be complaining if you did that. And then that just means another tour and another album cycle, and
Right.
you can't see.
Exactly. And another reason to come back here.
Yeah, exactly. And play your home country.
I mean, it's great for me. I love it.
Yeah, nice and easy.
Yeah, it's sweet. I mean, I get to see more of my own country than I ever did, so I'm stoked. And like, yeah, we play some really regional spots with this band,
I've
which
I've
is
noticed
nice.
that, man. Like
Yeah,
WA and that there's some weird spots.
like yeah, some big drives, which I often do. That's great.
Yeah. Oh, that's awesome, man. Man, I'm honestly I'm so keen for this tour. I'll be at the Brisbane show photographing.
Back room.
Yep.
Yes,
Great.
stoked.
That was a great venue for to see you guys in. So
Yeah, we've been there twice now, I think, and this will be another one. So yeah, I think it's nearly sold, all the way out,
that's
as
awesome,
Brisbane
man.
usually does, which is great.
It's going to be awesome, man. I'll be there along with everyone else. I'll have my camera in hand up in the photo pit. So make sure you get up in my
We'll
camera,
be
which you did
there.
last time. You're awesome at photographs. So thank you.
Just a little show off,
Yeah, nothing wrong with that, man. You play punk. That's what you're supposed to do.
Yeah, just flick the hair back. Yeah.
All right, man. I'm going to let you go. Thank you so much for
Yeah, man.
hanging about and having a chat, dude.
Thank you. I'll see you there. Can't wait.
We'll do, man. We'll have all the links and info in the description below and everything for that, man.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Yeah.
You have a great rest of
See
your
you,
day,
Bruce.
man.
You too, dude.